I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason. His body was never recovered from the lake after he drowned. And if you listen to the old-timers in town, they'll tell you he's still out there.
Camp Crystal Lake is jinxed.
It's got a death curse.
Some folks claim they've even seen him. Right in this area.
Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
The girl who survived that night at Camp Blood, that Friday the 13th, she claims she saw him.
Boy, is he dead too?
We didn't find any boy.
Then he's still there.
Legend has it that Jason saw his mother beheaded that night. And he took his revenge. A revenge that he'll continue to seek if anyone ever enters his wilderness again.
Jason was my son, and today is his birthday. That's a good boy. Good Jason.
Jason's out there.
Some of our regular listeners will probably have a little deja vu here. Probably most likely because you do realize that we have talked Friday the 13th, the original, almost 2 years ago on this podcast. But for continuity's sake, we're going to talk about it again today, just because we're talking, this is day one of our Friday the 13th retrospective. It's going to be a long one. We might take a break and pepper in a movie there. I think we got Prey coming up, just to keep us sane and not morbid from watching all these horror films. And the great thing about Friday the 13th, it's a good time to do it because he just kind of hinted and announced that with the lawsuit going on with Victor Miller, the original screenwriter, things are coming to be settled.
Yeah, he's suing the studio, wasn't he?
Yeah, but it's kind of done now. He won.
Right.
But there's a lot of gray areas of what he's won. So what's happening now is the producer of It has come out and says we're finalizing things, and it looks like Friday the 13th might be reborn.
Okay. Again?
Well, I'm hoping at this point they do what they did with Halloween. They do a requel.
And make it more gritty.
Make it more gritty. And start with the initial one, and then go from there. You can't jump back into what we're about to talk about in episode 8.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully that works out. But it's a good fitting time to do this one, and I think the Friday the 13th will be fun. I know them like the back of my hand, so it's an easier podcast, which is nice. And it's nice to talk about. And thanks to a little documentary called Crystal Lake Memories. It's an 8-hour documentary or something like that of all the Friday the 13th, and they interview everybody, the directors, the producers, the writers, the stars of every single one. And they go through all the movies, and they interview them, and they talk about the number one thing that Friday the 13th always got fucked over by was the MPAA. Mm-hmm. And we will certainly get into that one. Our last, when we did Friday the 13th, the two podcasters I did it with hated it, did not like it, weren't fans of it, couldn't believe it. I was shocked, but what are you going to do?
Who was that, Nuala and Colin?
No, it was Nuala and Graham, I believe.
Right, yeah.
I was shocked Nuala didn't like it because she liked Slumber Party Massacre in her own right. But to each their own. But let's start off with Friday the 13th. Part 1. Now, well, actually, let's start off with the series in general. I have seen every single one of these in the theater. Besides, no, I didn't. I was wrong. I lied. Besides 1, 2, and 3.
I wouldn't have seen any of them in the theatre, and I'll tell you why. Because I've discussed this on the podcast before. These were, back in those video nasty days of the 1980s. Now, the Friday the 13th series, they weren't, video nasties. However, it was very tough for, kids of my age to get into the cinema to see a horror film. Basically, 18 certificates were slapped on all of these almost straight away. And there was a lot of prudishness about, films such as the Friday the 13th series, Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser and stuff back in the 80s growing up in the UK. So there was not a chance they would have let me in to see them in the cinema, and trust me, my mate and I did try to get into many 18 certificate horror films, so we had to unfortunately have the long, arduous wait for them to be released on video. And so I was basically raised by videos, my local video libraries, and that's where I would have seen the Friday the 13th films.
Well, I was introduced 1, 2, and 3 on the video myself, probably for the same reason. So, yeah, it became more available. I got more into it. Unfortunately, when I started seeing them in theater, that's where they kind of lost their way.
Yes, yeah, they got a bit ridiculous.
Got stupid and comic booky, and like they did, same thing happened with Nightmare on Elm Street, really.
Yes.
So let's just start off real quickly about the original Friday the 13th. What we're going to do here is that we're going to talk 1 and 2 in this podcast, and the next podcast we'll talk 3 and 4. And just a, quick, what do you call it? Not a meet and greet. It would be a meet and greet. It'd be like a quick
retrospective.
Well, yeah, maybe that's the word. I don't know. I overthink things a lot. All right, but we're starting off with Sean S. Cunningham. He was known early 70s for doing softcore porn. And guys, when I say softcore porn, it's very minimal. It's not. It'd be like watching a daytime soap opera these days.
Yeah.
So don't take that. You hear the word porn, that it's gratuitous anyway.
By today's standards, it's mild. Mild.
Yeah. But he did a little film with his buddy at the time, Wes Craven, called The Last House on the Left.
Yep.
Very grindhouse. And Wes went on to do his own thing. Obviously, he'd go on to do Nightmare on Elm Street. And then Sean S. Cunningham tried to do kids' movies. This really didn't pan out for him. And then a little film came out. Yes, the greatest horror film ever produced, Halloween. Halloween was coined the first slasher film. I disagree. I don't think Halloween is a slasher film.
Well, there was many slasher films before it as well.
Well, yeah, but we got, when it was coined, the term, the subgenre was coined back in 1978 with the release of Halloween. So we'll start there. But to me, Halloween is still a thriller. Yes, the sequels, they'd be considered slasher or sellout, you pick. But, so Sean S. Cunningham, smart man, always liked the Friday 13th, the day. It's an unlucky day, you know what I mean? What is it, suspicions? Not suspicions. Why am I not finding the right words?
Yeah, it's basically like sort of...
It's kind of like, the black cat.
Yeah, superstitions.
Superstitions. How the fuck could I not figure these? You know why? Because it's early. It's like 90 degrees in Northern Ireland, people. It is rare. It's over 60.
We're boiling here, basically.
Yeah, it's hot. And over here, they don't really use air conditioning.
No, we don't.
So, unless you go out to like a restaurant or something, there's air conditioning. So, pretty much in Europe, you don't get your air conditioning.
We're basically living in that episode of The Twilight Zone where for some reason the sun decides to move closer to the earth and everyone's boiling up.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. So I'm sitting here at my desk and then I got fucking sound effects going on. All it's garbage day. So I got the bin men,
garbage
got the neighbor
day
doing the bandsaw thing. So I got to close all the windows so I can do this podcast. And it's like, fuck. Now it's even hotter. Dying. All right, but yeah, so he wanted to take, Friday 13th. So what he did was he took a 1-page ad out in Variety in the late 70s, and all it says was Friday 13th from the makers of Last House on the Left. Coming soon. and it ended up getting some attention. Smart move, actually.
Yeah, he was basically looking funders and producers.
Yep. And actually, his buddies who funded Last House on the Left came down and said, "Okay, we'll do it." So for $550,000, which is about $200,000 more than Halloween. So by today's standards, that's unbelievable. And it's kind of nice though. And it does show some of the stuff they have to cut back on, but we'll dig into it. So he gets into Friday the 13th. He hires Victor Miller. Yes, he's the man who's suing them right now. And he was pretty much told, copy Halloween. Mm-hmm. That's what he was pretty much told. Just go ahead and copy it. Obviously, make it your own and tweak it. Now, the original title was going to be, it was Friday the 13th, but the script or the shooting was Long Night at Camp Blood, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I think it's a better title.
I think it's a better title.
Yeah.
Or they could have said Friday the 13th, Long Night at Camp Blood.
Well, I think they were, again, it goes back to the Halloween sort of ripping off where they were looking at sort of iconic spooky date. So Halloween was already obviously taken and it had been sued big time. So the only other one really is Friday the 13th. So I can see why they did it for marketing reasons.
Yeah, it's simpler.
But Long Night at Camp Blood is a better title.
Yes, agreed. So we've got Adrienne King, who plays Alice.
Yes.
We got Betsy Palmer, who plays Mrs. Voorhees. You got Marcy, Annie, Jack, Bill, Brenda, Ned, Steve, and Crazy Ralph, the Your Doom guy, who's been pretty much ripped off in every film ever made after this. Mm-hmm. There's always a Crazy Ralph.
But it's a bit of a trope anyway. I think even before that, like they sort of go to the small town and there's like this sort of, this sort of local sort of village idiot crazy guy character. So it's not a completely new trope, but yeah.
So we open up in 1958. Now, the one thing the Friday the 13th never got right is continuity. And what I mean by that is timelines. Nobody to this day knows how old Jason is. Now, the kid she killed in the beginning, she killed in the beginning.
Yes.
Was that the night the kid drowned? Jason drowned in 58? Or was it the year before?
I think it was shortly after.
No.
A year.
She wouldn't kill these kids if the kid was still alive.
Exactly. So, yes, Jason drowned previously.
Yeah, okay, so 57.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my take on it anyway. And then, so she is basically killing them because she's pissed off that because the previous, sort of kids on the camp weren't, they were more interested in having sex and stuff instead of doing their job. Which
is another slasher cliche. The virgin doesn't die.
But hold on a minute. Yeah, they sort of play around with that as well because Alice is no sort of good girl either. But we'll get to that.
Well, she doesn't sleep around. But we'll talk about
that. About pot and stuff.
Oh God, what did he do? So did Jamie Lee.
Yeah, I suppose.
Haha, gotcha that one.
No, yeah. Well, I mean,
now the cool thing is, the original idea was that in this scene where she kills the two counselors. Oh, by spoiler alert! Right, if you're fucking listening to this, you're an idiot. If you're, if you don't know the answer, Mrs. Voorhees is the killer. Everyone thinks it's Jason, but it's actually Mrs. Voorhees.
Reference to Scream, of course.
So in this death scene, she was originally supposed to lose her finger. Mm-hmm. So through the duration of the rest of the film, when you jump back to 79, a handful of years later, the killer scenes the hand with the missing finger.
Yeah.
They were going to do that originally to give you a hint to who it could be. Mm-hmm. But they decided to get rid of that because of time constraints. They didn't have time.
I think as well, you would have known the killer is played by a man right up until the reveal of who it is. So it would have been pretty obvious, the difference between a man and a woman's finger.
Not necessarily.
Well, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. But
maybe
I don't think
close up or something.
I don't think they're thinking that. I think they're just continuity. Not continuity time-wise, they said. Mm-hmm. But we actually meet the real first death, I guess you can say, in modern Friday the 13th, which is Annie. Annie is my favorite. Even next. Oh no, Kevin Bacon's my favorite death, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Annie's got a great death.
Yeah, and what I like about it is she is the first time you're watching that the film. She's sort of set up as she's going to be the leading lady.
They said that. They said
it's a rug pull. Yeah,
she's a Janet Leigh.
Yes, and it is a rug pull.
Yeah, and I like that a lot.
So do I.
And a lot of people make fun of the acting in this film. Don't get me wrong.
Come on, it's fucking Friday the 13th.
Yeah, exactly. Come
You're
on.
not going to be
that's
getting fucking. It's not going to be some sort of Shakespearean sort of performances. Yeah.
Well, Crazy Ralph was pretty good.
But even he's a bit shit. With I'm Crazy Ralph. You know what I mean? That gets a bit tiresome.
When she gets into the Jeep and there's a big chase scene, and let's talk about this now. Henry Manfredini's music's really good.
Yeah.
Obviously he's very Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very much Psycho.
Yeah,
inspired.
But it's not doesn't rip it off, but it is inspired, of course. But the chase sequence, the music sets it up really well, with the highs and the lows of the chase. But when she gets her throat cut, it's a solid little kill.
Oh yeah.
And this was Thomas Sweeney's second outing because he just did Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
So this is him more smaller production.
Yes.
More hands-on, more, he's creating his own elaborate effects without having a team of hundreds of people making, zombies and all that kind of stuff.
I think what works best for me with this death is, it's quite violent as well, and and it's very well done special effects wise by Savini, but it is a shock, and obviously Scream is inspired a lot by this. It's like killing off the apparent leading lady early on, So it's very effective in that way.
It is, and and this is where pisses me off about reviewers in the 80s. They'd piss all over it, but because they're so blinded by the gore, they don't realize that it's a little more clever than they're giving it credit for. At the end of the day, this plays just homage to, especially to Psycho, but it also plays like an Agatha Christie novel.
Yeah, who done it?
At 10 Little Indians.
Yeah. I'm going to you mentioned there about, sorry, I'm going to jump in now. You mentioned there about the reviewers at the time. I used to always watching, and I would watch them on YouTube and stuff, Siskel and Ebert's reviews, but I just read about
morons.
This.
Morons.
Do you know what Gene Siskel did? He gave out, he totally trounced the film. He was ignorant about the film. He was very prudish about it. But he also gave out Betsy Palmer's home address and told people to write letters to her in protest. That's bang out of order. And a serious invasion of privacy. Now, it turned out he had got the address wrong, but the intention was there. And that is really fucking bang out of order.
Yeah,
not liking a film is one thing. That's fair enough. That's an opinion. Even if it is prudish, and I'll agree with it. Disagree with it completely. But to give out somebody's home address like that is that's potentially illegal as well.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, Friday the 13th won. Mm-hmm. 40 million later. So
yeah,
and hundreds of sequels, billions in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, probably even over Michael.
Yes,
is the most beloved villain out there. So fuck him. God rest his soul. But I never liked the guy. I thought he was just a hypocrite.
Well, I
thought this kind of gore and violence was in a fucking Caligula.
Yes.
Or on one of these fucking so-called masterpiece kind of films. Yeah. If this kind of stuff was put into that, he'd think it was beautiful.
It's the fact that he's taking fiction so serious that pisses me off, and being sort of like super offended over what is make-believe. I always preferred Roger Ebert anyway. I thought he was a better reviewer, but yeah, I did used to like listening. I would watching YouTube and stuff. The two of them, going off against each other and stuff. But once I read about this, which was just recently, that it put me right off him.
Yeah, like I said, and like I mentioned, it's they're kind of hypocrites. It depended because this is a bunch of no names. If Spielberg did this, I'm talking, obviously a little out there, but Yeah, if Spielberg's name was on this, they'd see a different film.
Yeah.
But because this is an indie film, and back then the indie market wasn't like it is now. Mm-hmm. People were frowning.
Oh, totally.
And that's why this movie. That's why I applaud Paramount, and I've always applauded Paramount. Mm-hmm. Paramount backed up this film since day one.
Yeah. And
they've had this franchise. It's got sold for a little bit. Now it's back to Paramount. But at the end of the day, this is a massive studio who said this is a lot better than people are going to give this credit for. So I applaud them for,
Well, obviously from a business point of view as well, they were sort of jumping on the Halloween bandwagon.
Yeah, you can say that. But this is the first film to be sponsored or released by a major studio. Halloween was not a major studio. Halloween didn't get taken over by Universal until Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, Compass International who actually put out Halloween.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that. A lot of, reading up on the Friday 13th and the documentary on it, you get to learn a lot about it and the appreciation backers had for it.
Yes.
But yes, at the end of the day, it's about the dollar.
Yeah. I would say as well, that obviously this film and the series is not high art. I mean, that goes without saying. But for these people to get so hysterical over what is basically a cheap horror film and make-believe, whether it's a good horror film or not is irrelevant. These people were just overly hysterical and offended by it. It's just absurd. I mean, we had the same in the UK with, the video nasties that I referenced earlier, Mary Whitehouse and, people like that. And it was absurd looking back, the way these people were getting on.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump back into it.
Yeah.
Now, is Steve and Alice an item?
Sorry?
Were Steve and Alice an item?
They were. My take on it was that they were, but it sort of split up, and he was looking to get back together.
Okay.
So this is the thing where that suggests heavily to me that Alice wasn't a virgin, like many final girls are supposed to be.
Well, my headphones just fell off there.
Right.
That whole scene about wow, you're a really good drawer. Yeah. Is this what I look like? You did last night. I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is so bad.
Yeah.
Betsy Palmer, when she got hired to play, she was kind of a get. Yeah. It was supposed to be Estelle Parsons. But you got Betsy Palmer.
She wanted a new car.
Yeah, she goes, I wanted a new car. The script was shit. But she grew to love it. And she understood. You know what's great about her story?
Yes.
Is she has the best arc. Yeah. And what I mean by that, she went in there hating this.
Yes.
But she gave it her all. She's a stage actress, mainly.
Method actress.
Yeah. And so by the run of it, she came back to 2.
Yes.
She actually went to all the conventions.
I was going to say, good on her.
She's enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And because of her, you had William Holden did Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah.
You had Terror Train. You had the great Ben Johnson. Mm-hmm. You had all these veteran actors coming out to go, hey, I could do that too.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Betsy Palmer. I think it's great that she apparently whenever she first read the script, she threw it over across the room and said, "This is a piece of shit." I mean, it's not the greatest script in the world. In fact, there's very little script there, but she did it. It became her most iconic role, and she embraced that. And she was honest about it. So I take my hat off to Betsy Palmer. Good on her. And she wanted a car. Yeah, good on her.
And
she went to the conventions and she did the fan service, and you know what I mean. She embraced it all. Fair play. Yeah.
Exactly. And so during the set, about they killed the real snake, which you wouldn't get away with now.
Yes, that was Savini.
Which I didn't mind because I fucking hate snakes.
Apparently, the owner of the snake didn't know this was going to happen, and Savini just went across and basically killed it. And apparently, the owner of the snake was in tears.
No, I don't think there's an owner.
That's what I read.
No, it's not. It's not right. No offense to you. I'm sure that's
no. I mean,
probably
it's just,
what happened was.
Yeah,
they were staying in the cabins.
Yes,
and one of the actresses saw a snake in their cabin.
Yeah.
So they found that as a let's do the scene.
Right. Okay.
So it was improv.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's just what I read. So I mean, obviously.
So the
there's a lot of
snake
rumour and
snuck
stuff
on the
going about
set.
here.
The snake snuck on the set.
Can't say I'm a
and,
fan of snakes either.
And yeah,
Not that I'm
So-
advocating animal cruelty or we are on.
I
the
was wondering
podcast.
when I was a kid seeing that because it looked real.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know Cannibal Holocaust has taken a lot of flack for the animals that are. There's like a big turtle and stuff killed in that, and it's
I
taken
don't
a lot
like
of.
that. I won't watch that shit. I don't watch that shit. I don't
Well,
watch
see,
that.
the thing is about Cannibal Holocaust, it actually is a clever story and script.
I'm not watching something where animals getting slaughtered. That's
Well,
just-
well it's not. I mean, it's not heavily done. But here, it's
They do
fucking.
it.
Yes, I know, but so they do it in Friday the 13th as well.
Oh my God! It's a snake, devil's creature. So anyway,
But it's still an animal.
Yeah, fuck that.
It's the same thing, and I would say
not
it's
an
more
animal.
brutal in Friday the 13th than actually in. Well, it's at very least the same as Cannibal Holocaust.
I doubt that.
It's the same thing, yeah.
So I like. You got Jack and Darcy's death. Is
Yes.
it Darcy or Marcy? Marcy.
I think so.
losing it.
See, to be honest with you, I know Alice and Kevin Bacon. I just refer to as Kevin Bacon in this. The rest of them are just sort of generic, horny teens that are basically cannon fodder for in this film, Mrs. Voorhees.
Well, let's talk. Okay, the rest of the movie's all about the chase scene, the deaths.
Yeah,
Now, a lot of people, it's a murder mystery, and most slasher films are.
yes, of course.
And it's a whodunit. But this one's quite clever at it. It's a little bit of a cheat because you never meet Mrs. Voorhees. Because you
Apparently-
need to meet everybody in
Yeah.
order for it to be a real whodunit.
Apparently, Betsy Palmer said to Sean Cunningham at the time that she should be in the start of the film because of what you're saying now, and he rejected that.
Yeah, she's right.
Yeah.
Because in order for it, you need the audience to choose.
Yes, and she knew that back then, and she had said to Cunningham, apparently.
Well, here's how clever the film is, and this is where I don't think people get. And people, it's a woman, she couldn't have done all this. Well, she could. Because if you look at the paper trail of deaths, she isolates them one by one.
I can buy that it's a woman because Betsy Palmer is certainly she has a certain physicality to her. I'm not saying that she's she's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but at the same time, I can accept it. I have no real issue accepting it. And to just echo what you were saying earlier as well, I think it's the script and the film overall. While it's not high art, it's a lot more clever than it gets credit for. It's also with the series, it's been accused of being sexist, basically, and misogynist. I disagree with that because none of the characters, either male or female, get it good.
It's like, let's piggyback onto the deaths.
Yeah.
So you have Ned, who was obnoxious. Mm-hmm. He gets, you see somebody kind of coerce him into the cabin.
Yes.
He gets killed off screen. Then you've got Jack and Marcy who are making love, that horrible love scene. And Ned's in the top bunker bleeding.
Yeah. It's a good death, though.
Yeah. Then Marcy leaves, go to the bathroom. Then Kevin Bacon gets the famous arrow through the throat, which was a mistake, by the way, if anyone knows that. They were supposed to. They pulled the arrow through, and the guy below him was supposed to blow the blood out of the tube, and it was supposed to just come out, but it got jammed, so he blew too hard, and all that blood gushing out was an error. It wasn't supposed to be that much, but it ended up looking good anyway.
But it works, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Then she goes to Marcy, kills her in the cabin in the shower. Did you see her? Did you see her in the shower?
Yeah.
No. Did you see the killer?
Oh, the killer? Yeah, well, it's sort of suggested, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, not to see where the killer walks in and you see the boots on. I'm talking when she's looking in the mirror and but you can see the hand
Yes, I caught that, I think, yeah.
behind the shower curtain.
Yes, I think I caught
Kind
that.
of moves, the killer moves before she gets the axe in the face. That was kind of neat.
It's a good death as well.
Brenda is going back to her cabin to read, and she and then you hear the boys crying for help, and Brenda goes out to help her. She gets it. So she knows how to take everyone down one by one. She's obviously couldn't do it if they're in a group setting.
Yeah, it's planned, well planned.
It's planned, it's well thought out, and well executed. And I don't think people catch that. Now, you have, is it Bill's death, who gets hung up and arrowed and stuff. I don't know how she did that, but still cool looking. Now, the MPAA didn't get at this one that hard. Some of the deaths are off camera. And I thought about this. I was okay with that.
I wanted to see the deaths, I have to admit. The ones that are done off camera. Not because I'm morbid, because it means that, well, I am morbid, I'll admit that, and I want to see cool deaths, But the main reason that I did want to see them, it's just because then you know for certain, this character's got it, It feels like I felt slightly cheated that you don't actually see the deaths of these, as a viewer, that you don't actually see the deaths of these characters on screen.
Well, I don't know if nothing mentioned about editing issues when it comes to the MPAA. So I just don't think they filmed them personally, or they didn't come out right.
Apparently, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, because they don't have time to do retakes and reshoots. So if something didn't work, it didn't work. But what are you gonna do? I love when Bill and Alice are investigating. Everyone's disappeared. And they see the bloody axe in the bedroom. They're like, that's weird. I'd be fucking out of there.
Yeah.
And what's with Steve? Steve makes him do all the work, and he goes, "I'll be back later this afternoon."
Yeah.
And then it's like midnight when he's still driving.
Yeah. There is a bit some character sort of, decisions that aren't, they don't really stand up, with how things would maybe play out in real life. But, I can accept all of that, because they have to move the plot forward. And it is a little contrived.
You don't really think about it until you kind of analyze it a bit.
Exactly. Exactly.
But, it doesn't take anything away from it.
But this isn't the sort of film that you overanalyze anyway, really,
I do like, it's pretty much 20 minutes long, is the main chase sequence between herself, between Alice and Mrs. Voorhees.
This is the best part of the film.
It is the best part of the film. I really enjoy it. I think it sets it up well. I think it's a fair fight. I like it because Mrs. Voorhees can't take a hit. She gets hit. She falls down. She bleeds. She's human.
Yes.
And once she's faced with somebody who knows she's there to attack, she can't defend herself like you would think she could.
Yeah.
Like I said, she alienated. She put everyone distance themselves from everybody so she can take them out one by one, not knowing she's going to do it.
It's a very realistic fight scene, and the reason being is because apparently Betsy Palmer was a method actor, so apparently Sean Cunningham had to rein her in with the slaps because she wanted to land, and she did real slaps on Alice.
Yep. Yeah, Alice got hurt. She started crying, and she goes, "What? I actually upgrade Betsy Palmer. Suck it up."
Yeah, it's very realistically done. Especially whenever it's basically a fist fight.
Yeah. Sean S. Cunningham tells her that no, we'll put the sounds in later.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the same.
Yeah, and Betsy Palmer obviously steals the show. She's the experienced actress and stuff. When she makes it for me.
The chase scene, my favorite part was when she goes into the hamper.
Yeah.
And the closet of the hamper,
the shed thing.
The shed where they keep all the food.
Yeah.
And you see the door, the knob twiting a bit.
Yes.
So little touches like that.
And there's also
charming.
Jack Nicholson in The Shining before Jack Nicholson in The Shining, where she comes through the door with the knife.
So you can say The Shining probably did that scene because of this.
Well, they were released around the same time. So
I know.
They were released in the same year. So
yeah. See that? Fuck you, Kubrick.
Yeah. Betsy Palmer and Cunningham did it first. Here's Betsy.
And then she gets her head cut off.
Yes.
And I remember seeing this on video and watching it over and over again. And that, when you watch these documentaries, it ruins it somewhat for you.
That's why they see just what you're saying there. That's why I very rarely, possibly never watch DVD extras, because it ruins the magic.
Yeah, you're right. But when he cuts her head off, you can see the toothpicks.
Yeah, I know, but it's fucking
brilliant. I know. You can't see it now.
Yeah.
But if you really look, and then the hands aren't hers.
Yes.
Betsy Palmer's. It's Tom Savini's assistant, so they're all hairy knuckles.
Yeah, but
I love it. No, I'm
I think
for it. Don't get me wrong.
It's just a brilliant death.
And then
off with your head.
they deliberately said that we're going to copy Carrie.
It was Savini's idea, apparently, with the final scar.
Yeah, they said they wanted to do something, one little thing. They had a little extra time, and they said, "Why don't we do this?" And now it's considered one of the best jump scares of all time.
Yeah,
next to Carrie, of course.
I would agree.
It makes the film, and it helps set up what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Did you know Jason's name wasn't Jason?
Yes, apparently, and it wasn't Voorhees either, was it? Or
No, it was Voorhees. It was Josh.
Josh? Yes. I think I might have read that somewhere.
Jason was he got the name. I think Victor Miller said it was some douchebag that he grew up with.
You're right.
I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, there you go. To me, this was probably the birth of the slasher. For me, my point of view. This is the first one to start raking out the sequels. This is why we got Halloween 2. Because Friday the 13th was 4 months later. They're already filming, Friday the 13th Part 2. So, I coined Friday the 13th as the first slasher.
It certainly started that 80s craze of the slasher, I would say. Well, obviously you could argue Halloween did, but I think this was the real sort of kick up the arse that it got.
Yeah, then you had Happy Birthday to Me, you had My Bloody Valentine,
Yes.
Christmas Evil, New Year's Evil, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah.
I mean, you
What was that
going.
one we reviewed? Me, you and Nuala. You mentioned it earlier on. Oh, it's Slaughterhouse.
Slumber Party Massacre?
Slumber Party Massacre.
Well, that was shit. And
Yeah.
you guys loved it.
Well, they
You
were all
guys thought
copy
it
and
was-
paste.
You guys thought it was a masterpiece.
Yeah, if you've never ever seen a film before ever in your life, it's
No,
like
then you hate it even more. I'm never watching the film again.
with a load of actresses in their 50s playing teenagers.
So this brings us to 4 months later. After a box office gold with about $40 million on a $550,000 budget, they up it to about a $1.2 million budget, and they give us Friday the 13th Part 2. This time, producer Steve Miner is in the director's chair.
Yes.
I like Steve Miner. He did some pretty fun stuff. He will take the helmets for the next couple of films, and we got a new team. Here's what Friday the 13th has done right. Especially, I think they've done it right, period. What they have done right, at least, they've taken some of the profit from the last film and they amp it in the second. They've done that pretty consistently with their films. So in this one, there's more gore, more deaths. So they've upped it. They've upped the game.
I read an online article, and this guy makes a brilliant point about the Friday the 13th series, why he thinks it's the best out of all these ones that were out at the time. He said with Halloween, with A Nightmare on Elm Street, and other ones, arguably, Hellraiser as well, they all hit the ground running, and the first film in the series could never be bettered. But he argues that Friday the 13th actually started off sort of average and got better as it went along. It sort of grew as it went along, whereas the likes of the original Halloween and the original Nightmare on Elm Street couldn't be bettered, and they weren't bettered. So this guy argued...
I would agree with that almost. Like I mentioned,
I agree with it.
They take their money and they don't splurge it on other films. They put some of that extra money into invest in the next one.
Yes.
I would say that up to a point in the franchise we're talking about.
Yes, I was going to say, once you get to the later sequels where Jason goes to space and New York and stuff, I mean, it's horseshit.
Well, we'll get to those. We'll certainly will, unfortunately.
But those earlier sequels, it definitely grows and the story develops.
Yeah, well, this
Overall
is where
story.
we'll talk about the story here. So we got this one. We got Ginny, Paul, Terry. I love Terry. Gorgeous Terry. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Ted, Scott, Vicky, Jeff, Mark, Sandra, and this time Tom Savini went off to do a Friday the 13th ripoff called The Burning.
The Burning.
Which I think
It's quite good.
Yeah, the burning's pretty good, which is funny because the burning is violent and gratuitous as hell.
It was a video
And
nasty.
they
It was banned in the UK.
but they did not get MPAA in the US. But guess what film did?
Yeah, Friday the
This
13th
one.
too. Yeah,
I will go over them, but it pisses me off. There's a cut out here of this film that for some reason we're not getting yet. And I don't get it because it's not lost in the archives. And I want to see the cut. I want to see the bedroom scene.
yeah,
I want to see it all.
yeah.
I sound like a sicko,
No, but
but
you know,
I know there's because there's cuts in this film that just get cut right away. Like what?
yes, I know.
And it pisses me off. It happened in Cobra.
To be fair, if they had cut fucking the entirety of Cobra, it would have been fucking favour to everyone.
Well, Carl Ferrelton is taking over for this one, and I love the gore in this one, what we get of it, and I like the deaths. Now, let's talk about the beginning. Now, they brought Adrian King back.
Yes.
Now, at the time, Adrian King was actually dealing with, at the time, he didn't really know of it, about a stalker.
Yes.
And to the point where her stalker befriended her, to where she didn't know that he was a stalker.
Yeah.
And it ended up her being at gunpoint.
Really? At gunpoint? I didn't
Yep.
know that.
And she had to talk.
I knew she had a stalker.
Yeah, so she had to talk him down.
Yeah.
So she was weary of coming back to the franchise. So now Friday 13th crew is saying her agent wanted too much money. So they brought her on board for the beginning, as we get, and she didn't realize she was
going to be killed off.
She was going to be killed. Everything was. They told her just to improv the whole scene.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
obviously,
how
the opening to Scream is hugely influenced by this. The opening of Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, kill off the main.
Yeah.
Or who thinks the main.
Well,
this would be more Scream 3.
I would say Scream. Because, like, she's cooking food, she's preparing a bit of food and stuff, she's in the kitchen. Like, Drew Barrymore is, preparing the popcorn and stuff.
Yeah, but that'd be kind of like more of the, what's her name? The hitchhiker, I can't, Annie.
Yes.
That'd be more like Annie, though. Because she's set up as the lead. She gets killed right away. She's the general.
Oh, you mean Annie in the original? Yeah.
Yes. So she's more set up like, because she was in one of them. She was in one. She's more like the killing of, oh my God, I can't remember. Of what's his name? Liev Schreiber in Scream 3.
Yes.
When he gets it.
Cotton Weary.
Cotton Weary, that's it. Can't believe we had a 20-minute conversation on this. All right, so let me get this straight. This is 2 months later.
Yeah.
2 months later, a little boy jumps out and grabs her. 2 months later, he's a 6-foot giant.
But in the original, that's a dream. It makes sense. No. I mean, this makes sense in my head because in the original, the final jump scare when Jason jumps out of the water is a dream. It's a dream sequence. But in the end, don't forget, Jason was like a kid in the 1950s, so it makes complete sense that Jason is now a fully grown man, and he would be in his, I don't know, I suppose 20s, late 20s, 30s, or whatever. That makes total sense to me.
I don't like the dream thing.
It is a dream, but no.
Even the producers can't explain it. It's funny. You should watch this documentary.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out. But in my head, and I haven't seen the documentary, I was just accepting that Jason is now a fully grown man, and at the jump scare at the end of the first film is a dream sequence, which is pretty much confirmed in it. So
no, it's not. It's not. Tom Savinian says they set that up for us. For you
sequel?
can either think it's a dream sequence or a sequel. Now, yeah, I guess you could say it's a dream, but the boy's face looks just like Jason in this one.
Yeah,
and I don't. Okay, well, just go with that. Again, I think it's Friday 13th. Who gives a fuck?
In my head, that's the way it is. And
all right, that's fine. We'll go with it. So now we're 5 years later after Annie gets is it Annie?
Yeah, Alice.
Alice gets it.
Damn,
these A
don't worry. There's so many of these teens that I lose track of their names as well. You know what I mean?
Well,
and to be honest, I don't give a fuck what their names are. You know what I mean?
You know what? And this is so innocent and sweet. Friday 13th. I know you can say that innocent and sweet, but they are. the movies are an hour and 25 minutes,
Yes.
29 minutes, whatever, right?
Yeah.
They give you like a 10-minute expose of the last one.
Yeah. I know.
It's like, oh, thank God, we got to get caught up because the plot was so fucking intense.
Last time on Friday the 13th. Yeah, exactly. So see, to be honest, see that catch up. I thought that was just to extend the runtime a bit. You know,
Yeah,
or else it
they
would have been
probably
just like
do.
an hour and 15 minutes.
You know what? I'm okay with it. I mean,
It's a
not,
Friday the
you know,
13th. You know
it's
what I mean?
Friday 13th.
You know what I mean?
I do like the campfire scene
Mm-hmm.
where Paul is telling them the story of Jason.
And then the sort of comic relief guy jumps out with the mask on.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of fun.
By the way, he's a shit comic relief. So he is, and he was just.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, we'll get to it, but later on.
Well, the annoying guy doesn't get killed, which shocks me.
and see, yeah, and he's obviously, you know, he's like a sort of early 1980s Randy from Scream, but nowhere near as good.
He's Ted.
Yes,
he's replacing Ned.
Yes,
from
They've
Friday
even
the
got the
13th.
same sounding name, you know.
Yeah.
It's basically copy and paste, but yes, he gets away by simply going drinking.
Lucky bastard.
There's no like chase scene or anything. He just he goes drinking, and that's how he survives.
But like I mentioned in the beginning of this one, they spent more money on it, so the gore is up, slightly better acting's tweaked, and the lighting's a lot nicer. So
There's
like
some
I
really
said,
good stuff in it.
yeah, so they've done some nice work, and I like the campfire setup we just talked about.
Yes.
It's a nice little setup because we already had the Betsy Palmer setup about, you know, the mother, but we got that from, well, the whole town folk, the trucker and Crazy Ralph and all these guys.
Crazy Ralph comes back.
Yeah, Crazy Ralph gets it in this one, thank God.
Yes.
One more last time.
Crazy Ralph, you know, camp blood.
You got a death curse.
You're doomed. Yeah, but I have to admit that the fuck it is Friday the 13th. It's basically generic stock horny teenagers. You know, as a cast who get bumped off one by one. But what do you expect?
My favorite death on Friday the 13th of all time is in this film.
Right.
Like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the films seemed to get a little bit better as they went on. Well, until a certain point.
Yes.
Friday the 13th will always be near and dear because it's the mother of the group.
Mm-hmm.
But what this one has is the greatest death, and that's Mark's.
Is this the guy that gets hung upside down?
No, this is the wheelchair.
Oh yes, yeah.
What a scene! The guy is. It's so well done. It's the best death in the fight. He gets the machete in the face. The poor bastard. He can't go anywhere. He's still alive, and the wheelchair rolls back from the power of the machete going into his face, and he goes down the stairs. And they have a tendency, both Friday the 13th do this. It's nice. They do this pause when someone's about to be killed or finalizing of the death, and then the screeching music comes, and it turns into a black and white fade out, fade in kind of thing, a bright fade in, I guess you could say.
Like an old school sort of effect type thing.
Yeah, it's really neat. They do that a couple of times. Probably for MPAA reasons, but it works.
Yeah. I like the guy getting hung upside down. I thought that was quite a good death.
Yeah, when Scott
Because he
gets
was really fucking annoying. And to be honest, with these films, a lot of the time, in fact, I would say most of the time, I'm fucking rooting for the killer because these characters are so annoying. You know.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I'm on Jason's side.
So am I. Well, yeah, when Scott when the girl is skinny dipping.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful scene.
Yeah, that guy's perving on her. Yeah.
Yeah, so Scott gets hung up in the little trap.
But he was a creepy bastard, like right throughout it to her. You know what I mean?
Here's a perfect scene where though the MPAA raped it. When he cuts his throat, the blood's about to pour out. It's a gorgeous shot.
Yeah.
And then it cuts away right away.
Yes.
So there was a lot of blood. He said there was a lot more blood in that scene. But did you see the error in that scene?
I'm not too sure.
It's I hate telling you this. Should I tell you?
Go ahead. Yeah. No, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the machete comes down to cut him,
Yes.
the machete's on the wrong side.
Right.
It's on the dull side.
Right. I did miss that. I must admit.
They cut him on the wrong side of the blade.
Right.
And it's clearly his day. I noticed, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But it's still a great kill.
Oh yeah.
The bedroom scene we were talking about when the spear goes through both parties as they're making love.
Yeah.
That whole scene was cut
right?
All you see now is the spear
Going through the two of them.
going through to the bottom of the bed. You see the aftermath.
I was glad
in
to
the
see them
original
bumped
cut,
off as
you
well.
s-
They were fucking annoying.
Yeah, they get gutted, and you see it. And that scene is still available, but they haven't released it yet. Don't know why.
Yeah, as part of the cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must admit, I love it. Goes proper horror. Whenever we get to the cabin, where basically we have Mrs. Voorhees' head, preserved, and that goes.
Oh yes, at Jason's place.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I mean that, and then obviously we get Betsy Palmer returning and stuff, which is very good. Bit cheesy and bit corny, the way it's done, but it still totally works for me.
When Paul and Jeannie come back from the party,
Yes.
and everyone's disappeared and yada yada yada.
Yes.
You know how I made fun of the axe on the bed? Oh, that's peculiar from the first one. This one, they see it and they go, "Okay, this is not a joke. They wouldn't go this far."
They've learned. Yeah, they've learned.
They knew right away that this is not right.
Something's up.
And there's a creepy little scene in it where, and I didn't catch it the first time. Well, the first 100 times I've seen it, to where they're in the cabin and it goes dark, and the camera keeps panning around the different layer areas. You can see them rustling around, trying to figure out where to go. And then she stops, and Jeannie says, "There's somebody else in this room."
Yeah.
And then you can see in the corner the mask, which, by the way, Baghead Jason, 300 times more scarier than a hockey mask.
The burlap sack. Yeah.
Yes, that is probably my favorite shot of the film.
No, I mean Jason is very effective here as a and creepy. Not the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life, but on film. But yeah, it works, and I agree with you. It works much better than the hockey mask, the burlap sack. There's
a slasher film that came out. I say slasher, but it wouldn't be a slasher because it wasn't before Halloween. It's for Halloween, but it's called the Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Yes.
And it's based on a true story in Texas, but he wore
the sack.
a pillowcase or a sack over his mask, and that's where they got this idea from.
Yes,
and it works. Fucking creepy as hell. And so,
much more believable than a fucking hockey mask.
Yeah, see, I'm not.
And it also ties in with the fact that Jason's deformed. So he's obviously. It sort of suggests that he's conscious about his appearance. And his deformed face, especially with all these beautiful teens and stuff knocking around and having sex. So it sort of ties in with that.
Around, having love time.
Yeah, well, and then getting, stab time.
Oh, you know what scene's so bad? When Ginny and Paul get separated.
Yes.
And they're running.
Yeah.
She's running, and she goes underneath the bed, and she sees a rat.
Yes.
And she pees, but it looks like someone's taking a
urine,
fucking whole
yes.
kettle.
That was...
that would never happen.
It didn't have to fucking have that. I don't want to...
No. I mean...
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen. It would all absorb into the genes.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a fucking...
I know. But even at that, I mean...
Lake Superior coming out of your pants.
I get that they were doing it to sort of heighten the sort of fear
tension
that she was going through and stuff like that there, but it was just a bit random or something,
I do think it's funny. Everything she's going through. There's a crazy fucker with a knapsack on his head coming at you with a pickaxe, and you're gonna wet your pants because you see a rat.
And also let's not sort of focus on the deranged killer coming after or whatever. Let's focus on this rat and her pissing herself. It's just like it didn't really work.
So we got the big climax where she pretends to be his mom. I kind of like that scene.
Yeah.
Because it kind of and I know this kind of sounds creepy, but he kind of feels sorry for Jason when you see this scene.
No, Jason is a tragic...
He's a victim.
Yeah, he's a tragic sort of... He has a tragic backstory. So that's another reason why I root for him. I do feel sorry for him. He's had it rough. And then these fucking dickheads are coming to his camp and shaking things up and, and having sex and smoking pot and drinking and doing all the rest. Yeah, fucking I'm 100% on the side of Jason after everything he's went through.
Yeah, so he gets his comeuppance supposedly.
Yes.
And then he got the nice jump scare through the window.
I think it's they were never going to sort of top the one from the first one, but they did the next best thing. I think it's really
did a pretty nice job. Usually when the window is in clear view and
Yes.
they're on the right side, you know something's coming through the window. You just don't know when.
Well, I think it was good the way there's like it's sort of a bit of a rug pull where it's at first it's the dog, this fucking chihuahua or whatever it is. And
Muffy.
it's like the fake sort of jump scare, and then just as you relax, next thing, adult Jason jumps through the window.
So, even the actors can't answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
Even the producers can't answer this question. What happened to Paul?
I assumed that he was killed off screen.
Because he was in the room
Mm-hmm.
with her
Mm-hmm.
when Jason comes through the window, and he's gone. The producers said they don't have an answer.
Yeah,
They're like, oh, I think we forgot.
yeah, it is.
It's
It's jarring. It's quite jarring because instead of sort of focusing on the very end of the film and stuff, you're saying, "Wait, where the fuck did Paul go? Where's Paul? What happened?"
They should have brought him back for 3
Yeah.
to give us some kind of something need to be explained because it does kind of he's too much of a main character to be. Oh, I don't know.
It's never followed up. I in my head, he's killed by Jason there off screen, but you don't see it, so who knows?
Well, they could have easily have had a bloody sheet
Yeah,
coming out of the cabin, and then where's Paul? We're sorry, ma'am. That's all you have. That's all you have to say.
yeah,
There's no money in that.
yeah,
Give me a break.
exactly, exactly.
But something went wrong
Bad
there.
editing or something.
Yeah, something went wrong. That's a big faux pas.
Yeah,
But so far, they're both tied. I'm still fond of the first one. I think the first one's got some. I like the clever whodunit mystery, as silly as it is. Had some nice shots. So far, I'm on team one. They're both good. One's a
I
murder
enjoyed them
mystery. One's a slasher.
I mean,
That's the way I look at it.
this with the second one, there's zero story really here. Very little story, very little sort of character development. But it's a Friday the 13th film. It's a Friday the 13th sequel. Even again, this ain't Shakespeare. This ain't Schindler's List, but it's not meant to be. It does exactly what it says in the tin. If you go into it with that mindset, as I did, I enjoyed both of them. And I think they work well together.
You said at the beginning that they kind of pick the reviewer pick up a game a bit with these films.
Yes,
And they do. Most horror slashers suck. Sequels suck.
absolutely.
This one doesn't.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think this got better reviews.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I like them both as a package, like
So do I.
one long film.
Yeah, so do I.
So I'm gonna go that route.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening to our part 1. Yes, we got 3 and 4 coming up next, and that should be a fun revisit. Downloads this week has been quite well. Thank you for that. Stop on my mama shoot. Surprisingly, he's done well. All it is 2 men yelling at each other. So I'm glad you enjoyed that.
I reckon people have enjoyed our podcast better than the film itself.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. You can follow us on CitizenFrame_podcast on Instagram or, of course, Facebook. And that's a wrap. We're going to end this one now.
Yeah.
Or will we be coming back for a sequel? Like that?
I'll wear my hockey mask for our sequel.
All right, guys. Have a good one. And we'll talk soon.